And thanks to the organizers of this forum. I'm humbled to be here with so many knowledgeable people who have looked at Turkey. And I've spent a fair amount of years looking at Turkish foreign policy and domestic politics. Indeed, there is a chapter in the book on Russia's complicated relationship with Turkey, and we'll get back to this point later. Now, what I want to say first, and to kick off the discussion, is that right now it's fair to say that Turkey and the West have the lowest point in their relationship for quite some time, certainly since the end of the Cold War. It's not just the EU with the kind of failed accession process. Of course, the parties won't terminate the negotiations, but it's fair to say that I don't think it's heading anywhere right now, which is even worse. The notion of privileged partnership that conservatives 10 years ago were proposing, that it's not going anywhere either. The upgrade of the customs union that was proposed as a way around the negotiations seems to be blocked. So there could be some fruitful cooperation, but the prospect is not good at all. The relationship has become transactional. The refugee deal struck in 2016 is the harbinger of what is to come. Many deals on the site, but clearly no strategic shared objective. And even the refugee deal is not functioning well because both sides have their grudges. Turkish side complains about the delayed monetary transfers, but equally the Europeans are unhappy about the rate of refugee or asylum seekers returned to Turkey. So there is a lot to be ironed out. Now the meeting in Varna, in my native country, that chairman referred to, that was supposed to kind of oversee some progress in the implementation of the deal. But judging by the comments by leading European politicians, including Donald Tusk, it's not a very bright prospect either. I hope the meeting takes place. And it's not coincidental that Turkey's immediate neighbors like Greece and Bulgaria have very much invested into this whole framework of cooperation. But let's not put our money on the meeting taking place and a successful outcome. So that's the EU. But the relationship with the US is even worse. Now you have two NATO allies at the brink of a proxy conflict in Syria. Who would have believed that? Of course, the devil is in the details. Secretary Tillerson went to Ankara. There was heated rhetoric in the Turkish media. But actually, the meeting was fairly productive after 3 hours of conversation. But the underlying issue is there. The only ally the US has in Syria is the YPG. It draws a distinction between PKK as a terrorist organization, recognized as a terrorist organization in Europe as well. But the US considers the YPG in Syria as something else, and Turkey doesn't buy this argument. And of course, the US sees Turkey as a reluctant ally in the fight against ISIS. The blame game continues. Who is taking the blame for this state of affairs now? So who would have believed that the US and its NATO ally would come to this end? Finally, I mean, Russia has emerged as an ally of sorts for Turkey. The purchase of S-400 surface-to-air missiles has raised many eyebrows across European capitals and certainly in the US. But, and then there is the bright spot here. The fundamentals are still there. There's some old facts to echo what Mr. Bausch had to say. And the fundament is the economy. Despite the talk of Turkey drifting away from Europe, turning authoritarian, its main trading partner continues to be the European Union. The overwhelming source of investment of FDI into Turkey is the EU. Dr. Kireççi is an authority on the issue, and I'm sure he'll have more details. So there is interdependence. It's very difficult to disentangle Turkey and the EU. There is the human link as well. Just think about all the Turks who live in Europe, including senior politicians. Cem Özdemir in Germany will be an example. So this is not a relationship that is severed easily. And Turkey won't cut the negotiations, won't drift away. There won't be a Turkish version of Brexit. Turkey will stay there. It is in the customs union as well. And Turkey is in NATO. Which leads me to my last point, the Russian-Turkish affair. It's not a marriage driven by love. It's a partnership of convenience. Turkey wants to be independent in foreign policy and uses Russia as a counterweight to the US, but also to the West. And also Russia is needed as an ally in Syria. Russia has shown that it can deliver and it controls the outcomes. Not all the outcomes, but it has the military strength. So Turkey needs to cooperate with Russia. But my gut feeling, and that's what I've been arguing for a long time, Turkey also balances against Russia. You don't see it very openly. But Turkey will stay in NATO. Turkey will continue cooperation with Ukraine, with Georgia, with Azerbaijan, also with the Balkan countries. It won't put all its eggs in one basket. And even in the field of energy, where you see the growth of cooperation with Russia. Last year was the record year for gas deliveries to Turkey from Russia. Still, Turkey will continue with its policy of trying to be an independent player and diversify away from Russia. So if I want to summarize in one sentence, it will be a game of balancing East and West, keeping membership in NATO, playing with other parties, but not abandoning the aspiration and the link to the West. How both sides manage this complicated condition, I don't know. There are many challenges, there will be many more panels. But here we are. And what we can hope to do, and Greece has a role, is to minimize frictions. Because again, to reinforce this message, it's not an easy time. There's a lot of tension, both in the Aegean, but also in Syria and elsewhere. And it's very volatile. There's a lot of risk of escalation and conflict. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you very much. Thank you.